Josh for any questions he may have.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I just want to associate myself with Ranking Member Waters' remarks. I don't represent a district of the rich and famous. The majority of people in my district are in the middle income and struggling in the lower incomes. And the way I understand this bill, the impact on them is that it would increase mortgage fees charged to middle income borrowers and decrease fees charged to wealthy borrowers. And the way I look at it is it makes it harder for middle-class Americans to purchase a home, and that's not why I'm here. I'm here to help try to assist my constituents, and let me just say that for the record. I just want to say you're the second panel, Mr. Davidson, that came up here to kind of essentially bash CBO, I guess I now understand why you and the person on the previous panel would want to bash the hardworking, nonpartisan experts at CBO, because I think they just keep on giving you bad news, but they give you accurate news. And I mean, this bill would increases the deficit by $348 million. No, I'm sorry. This bill would increase it by $1.8 billion. I'm sorry. The previous bill that we had would increase the deficit by $348 million. H.R. 1, which you guys brought up, the Lower Energy Costs Act, would increase the deficit by $0.4 billion. H.R. 2, the Secure the Borders Act of 2023, would increase the deficit by $6.1 billion. H.R. 23, the Family and Small Business Taxpayer Protection Act, would increase the deficit by about $114 million. The bill we did on guns last week would increase the deficit by $506 million. You guys like to spend and don't really care about the impact on our deficit when it's on things that you like, but you pick and choose when it's spending on things that that help people. You all complain, and I just pointed out because we just went through this ordeal where some of your members kind of revolted and insisted that we come up with this deal in order to increase the debt ceiling, as if somehow spending is so out of control and you need to control it. I just gave you an example of a number of bills, including the bill that we are dealing with here today, in which you are adding, huge amounts to our deficit. And I want it to be part of the public record because I think there's an inconsistency and even a hypocrisy here, with on one hand saying, the deficit is out of control, and then we go down this road where we're being asked to ignore the deficit as if it somehow doesn't matter. I just think there's an irony here. Yeah, happy to yield.
Yeah. This bill doesn't add anything to the United States government's deficit. It doesn't collect revenue that would go to Fannie and Freddie.
CBO,
so that is not what the CBO said. That the score goes to the money that is collected by the GSEs, Fannie and Freddie. This isn't going to pay down the debt. It isn't going to service the interest. It's not going to do a damn thing except go to Fannie and Freddie, unless somehow FHFA continues to do what they've done, which is siphon the profit off of the GSEs, which they confiscated and nationalized and took away the equity that was there, and then fund their own operations out of it instead of letting them build capital so that they can exit conservatorship.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting way to try to deny what CBO stated, that there's a cost to this bill.
If you talk about CBO, why don't we trust them? When we passed student debt takeover, the federal government took over student debt as part of Dodd-Frank, they said that the federal takeover of student lending would save $63 billion. The reality is we're expecting defaults of around $500 billion. Why should we trust CBO?
Well,
they haven't earned it.
Why do we even ask for a CBO score if it means nothing? Because CBO was invoked quite a bit during the debate on the you know, on the debate over the debt ceiling. I don't, Ranking Member Waters, do you want anything to add?
Well, you know, simply to say that we all abide by pay for now. I mean, you know, led by Republicans. I mean, I don't like it, but that's what we do. And I'm shocked to have Mr. Davidson come in and say, let's just ignore it in this instance. We don't have to agree to pay for it because of, I have my thoughts about what I think this bill is, and what I'm trying to do is convince other Republicans that somehow wealthy people are being charged a lot more money to offset what they're not getting from middle-class people or people with less money. I tell you, all you have to look at is you have to look at those who don't have a 20% down payment. They get mortgage insurance. And right now, and before this change, the cost of their fees and mortgage insurance was higher than what people who have 20% or 30%. And now this equalizes everything. And guess what? It doesn't cost $1 billion. That's your bill.
Well, let me just, I ask unanimous consent to insert into the record the Congressional Budget Office cost estimate, basically stating that this bill would add $1.8 billion to the deficit. It's here in black and white. Maybe you don't believe your eyes, but it's here. That's what they say. And you add that to all the other bills that we're told, don't worry about it. We're not going to trust the CBO. And then it's just then hard to then take my friend seriously when they say, when they use the deficit and the debt as a justification to cut programs that help the poorest and the most vulnerable in this country. There's just something fundamentally wrong with that. And on this bill, again, the way I understand it, is that it would increase mortgage fees charged to middle-income borrowers, but decrease fees charged to wealthy borrowers. This is a pretty hefty price to pay. With that, I yield back my time.
Thank you, gentlemen.